Have you ever felt a little more alone lately, but couldn't quite figure out why? Sometimes, as we grow older, it's not what we say that pushes people away, it's the quiet habits we carry that we no longer notice. Things that once felt normal can slowly start making others feel distant. And the hardest part? No one tells you. Not because they don't care, because they do. But because they're unsure how to bring it up without hurting your feelings. So they stay silent, and you stay unaware. In today's video, we'll uncover 12 everyday habits that might be creating invisible distance between you and the people you love. These aren't about judgment. They're about awareness, about catching the blind spots that quietly shape how others experience us. And the good news? Every one of these habits is completely fixable. By the end, you won't just know what to look out for, you'll feel more confident in how you carry yourself. Because aging isn't about fading away. It's about showing up wiser, warmer, and more present than ever. Let's begin. Habit number 1: letting go of personal grooming. You don't need to dress like a celebrity or smell like a rose garden, but when self-care starts slipping, people around you notice, even if they never say it out loud. It might be as small as wearing the same shirt 2 days in a row. Hair that hasn't been brushed. A faint odor that lingers longer than it should. Fingernails a little too long. It's not about perfection, it's about the energy you project. When you stop taking care of yourself, others may subconsciously pull back, not out of disrespect, but because your actions are signaling, "I've stopped trying." And that's heartbreaking, because deep down, you haven't. You've just fallen into a habit. But the moment you brush your hair, change into a fresh shirt, and smile in the mirror, people respond differently. They feel your presence. They want to sit closer. They want to connect. That's the power of showing yourself a little love. Habit number 2: speaking without a pause. As we age, many people feel they've earned the right to say it like it is. And in many ways, that's true. But when the filter disappears completely, it can leave behind more wounds than wisdom. You may not even notice it: a quick comment on someone's weight, a joke about their parenting, a blunt truth about their life choices. It might feel like honesty. But to others, it often feels like judgment. And instead of saying anything, they quietly withdraw. Calls grow shorter. Invitations stop coming. You're still loved, but now from a distance. The fix? It's not about censorship, it's about compassion. Before you speak, ask, is this helpful? Is this kind? Because truth without empathy is just noise. And wisdom without warmth? It gets ignored. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, "I don't agree, but I understand." That's when people really begin to listen. Habit number 3: wearing clothes that no longer fit you or your life. Comfort is important. But when clothing becomes outdated, too loose, too tight, or clearly worn thin, it can send a silent message: "I've stopped noticing myself." You might feel fine in your faded shirt or baggy trousers. But others see something different: detachment. A slow fading from the present into the past. But here's the truth: you don't need fashion, you need freshness. A well-fitting shirt, clean shoes, or simply dressing for today instead of yesterday tells others, "I still value myself. I still care how I show up in the world." You'd be surprised how a new outfit or even a well-matched scarf changes how people treat you. Not because of the clothes, but because of what they say about your spirit. Style isn't about looking young. It's about looking alive. Habit number 4: taking over every conversation. When you've lived through decades, you've got stories to tell, and advice to give. But sometimes, in the excitement to share what you've learned, you accidentally silence everyone else in the room. Interrupting. Talking over. Giving unsolicited advice. You may think you're helping, but what others feel is that their voice doesn't matter. That they're not part of a conversation, but sitting through a lecture. Especially younger generations, they might still respect you, but they won't open up if they feel like they're always being corrected or overshadowed. The solution? Ask more than you answer. Let your children, your neighbors, your friends speak fully. Listen like it's the first time you're hearing their story. And when you do offer advice, let it come as a gift, not an interruption. People don't drift away because you spoke too little. They drift because they didn't feel heard. And when you give others space to talk, something beautiful happens. They come back to you, again and again, not for instruction, but for connection. Habit number 5: criticizing kids these days. It might start as a joke. Back in my day, we respected our elders, but over time, repeated criticism of younger people begins to feel less like wisdom and more like judgment. You may think you're sharing truth, but to them, it feels like rejection. When you constantly point out what today's generation is doing wrong, it sends a silent message: you're not good enough. Your world isn't valid. And the result? Emotional distance. Your grandkids may stop sharing their dreams. Your children might avoid deep conversations. Not because they don't love you, but because they're tired of defending themselves. You don't have to agree with every trend. But asking instead of assuming, what's it like growing up in this world? Can open doors you didn't know were closed. Respect flows both ways. If you offer curiosity instead of criticism, you'll be amazed how warmly people respond. Habit number 6: ignoring modern manners. Standing too close in line. Talking loudly on the phone in public. Playing videos without headphones. These might seem like small things, but they speak volumes in today's world. Decades ago, people may have brushed it off. But now, these behaviors are often seen as inconsiderate. And most people won't tell you directly. They'll just step away. When that happens enough times, you start to feel invisible, not realizing that it's just a matter of awareness. Being respectful of personal space and noise isn't about being perfect, it's about showing others that you still notice the world around you. When people see that you move with grace and consideration, even in public, it leaves a lasting impression. You're not just older. You're thoughtful, present, dignified. And that kind of presence always stands out. Habit number 7: talking too much about health problems. Aches, pills, appointments. It's natural to talk about what you're going through. But when every conversation becomes a list of symptoms, it can quietly wear down the people around you. Especially younger family members, they often feel helpless, unsure of what to say, or even overwhelmed. They start avoiding long conversations. Not because they don't care, but because they feel like they're sitting in a waiting room, not with you. Of course, your pain is real. And you deserve empathy. But when your health becomes the center of every interaction, your relationships start to shift, from companionship to caretaking. Instead, try balance. Talk about your health, but also ask about their lives. Share a story. Mention something good. Show that your life isn't just what hurts, it's also what still lights you up. People want to connect with the part of you that's still alive, not just what's breaking down. Habit number 8: holding on too tightly to outdated beliefs. You've lived through a different time. You've seen the world shift. And naturally, you have strong beliefs, shaped by experience, pain, and survival. But sometimes, those beliefs become walls instead of wisdom. You might say, that's just how it is, or people are too sensitive now. But to others, especially younger generations, that sounds like resistance, not leadership. And slowly, they stop including you in meaningful conversations, not because you're wrong, but because you won't listen. The truth is, being wise doesn't mean having all the answers. It means staying open. It means asking questions. Being willing to understand, even if you don't agree. You don't have to abandon your values. But the willingness to update your understanding keeps you emotionally relevant and respected. When you say, "I never thought of it that way," it doesn't make you weak. It makes you magnetic. Because the most admired elders aren't the ones who cling to the past. They're the ones who still have the courage to grow in the present. Habit number 9: moving without awareness of others. You slow down. You pause to catch your breath. You lean on the cart a little longer. That's normal in older age. But what often goes unnoticed is how our movement can affect those around us. Blocking aisles in stores, drifting into others' paths, stopping suddenly in a crowded hallway, it's rarely intentional. But to others, it can feel like friction. And people won't tell you. They'll just quietly go around you, with a sigh or a quick glance that says more than words. This isn't about walking faster, it's about being mindful. Noticing space. Being aware of flow. Sharing public areas with quiet courtesy. When others see you move with awareness, they don't see age, they see grace. They don't feel burdened, they feel respected. And that's the kind of presence that draws people closer instead of pushing them away. Habit number 10: jokes that haven't aged well. You might think, I've always joked like this. But some humor that got laughs 30 years ago doesn't land the same today. Jokes about race, weight, gender, or younger people's choices can feel outdated or offensive, even if that's not your intent. You may laugh, say, I'm just teasing, or, come on, lighten up. But others, especially younger adults, often smile politely, then keep their distance. That doesn't mean you have to lose your sense of humor. Just update it. The best jokes in older age are the ones that bring people in, not push them out. Laugh at yourself. Share funny memories. Find the light without casting a shadow on someone else. Because humor that's kind, thoughtful, and self-aware. It's a magnet for connection, and it never goes out of style. Habit number 11: acting helpless when you're not. Yes, aging brings challenges. And yes, you deserve help. But when you start saying, I can't, before you even try, or rely on others out of habit instead of need, it slowly drains the people around you. You might think you're just asking for a small favor. But when it happens often, you do it for me, I'll just mess it up, others begin to feel more like caretakers than companions. What they truly admire isn't perfection, it's effort. Struggling a little. Learning something new. Carrying your own plate. Trying the TV remote again before giving up. These things matter more than you think. They send a message, I'm still in the game. I'm still willing to try. And when help really is needed, it feels genuine, not expected. That balance keeps your dignity, and your relationships, intact. Habit number 12: always needing to be right. After decades of life experience, it's tempting to believe you've seen it all. That your way is the way. But when every conversation becomes a quiet battle to prove a point, people stop engaging. Correcting others, shutting down new ideas, dismissing things with, trust me, I know better, all of it makes others feel small, not supported. And instead of respect, they give you something else: silence. Not because they agree, but because they're tired. Tired of defending themselves. Tired of not feeling heard. But here's the truth: true wisdom doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to win. It listens. It asks. It says, that's interesting, tell me more. When you trade the need to be right for the desire to connect, you'll find that people don't pull away, they lean in. They ask your opinion. They seek your thoughts. Not out of obligation, but out of trust. And that's the kind of presence that stays with them, long after the conversation ends. Now that we've explored these 12 everyday habits, take a quiet moment to reflect, not with guilt, but with gentle honesty. Which of these showed up in your own life? Which surprised you? And which one do you feel ready to shift, even just a little? This video wasn't about shaming you. It was about awareness. About helping you recognize small habits that quietly affect how others feel around you, and how you feel about yourself. Because the truth is, people don't drift away all at once. It happens slowly, in unspoken moments. But just as those habits were learned, they can be unlearned. Every small act of awareness, every time you pause, listen, choose kindness, show up with care, becomes a step back toward deeper connection. Aging gracefully isn't about holding on to the past. It's about walking forward with dignity, curiosity, and a heart that still wants to grow. So ask yourself today, am I pushing people away, or pulling them closer? Because the answer is in your habits. And the choice is yours. If you found even one of these habits meaningful or eye-opening, let us know in the comments. Which one hit home for you the most? And if you haven't already, subscribe and tap the bell, because we're here to help you age with strength, grace, and dignity, one honest conversation at a time.